I accidentally closed down the damn window a second ago. Yay. Hello, everyone, as you are joining. What up? Gonna take a while for people to roll in, and we'll just be chilling until then. Hope Nivek's ass comes on here. I invited him just a minute ago, told him we were going live. Oh, I guess he's probably fresh off Mace's show. Mace's show might be. Is Mace's show still going on? Hero? Travis, can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Doop, doop, doop. We got quite a bit to talk about tonight when Perry gets here and my partner in crime. Of course, I could just lecture until everybody shows up, but that's no fun. Where is it? I guess I can just real quick for everybody listening. We're gonna probably, this is like, oh man, it's probably got to be the 10th, maybe the 8th or ninth episode of Linguistics, and it's terribly important. It's such a huge field that I only have time to cover so much. And after this series, we will be going to probably science and just understanding what a natural science is and that kind of thing. And then after that, we're probably going to go into the philosophy of mind. And then after that, it'll be psychology. So I haven't gotten too far past that because that'll take a damn year with knowing how I'll want to cover psychology and neuropsychology and neuroscience and biochemistry. No, not biochemistry, but, well, neurochemistry. Um, all that stuff will come up. But we've had two or three semantics episodes uh, here recently because I've done some tangent times in between. So we've had two or three semantics episodes. I've had to do multiple quote unquote subfields of linguistics episodes because there's like fucking 80 of them. Um, and it's good to kind of get an idea of what they're all pointing to. Uh, but I did this series on linguistics because it's so interesting to me and it's at the basis of everything we humans do. So kind of built from logic, went to epistemology, and now in linguistics. And then from there we go to science and then philosophy of mind and uh, all that kind of stuff, all that fun stuff. Let's see who we've got rolling in here. Nobody else yet? Just a few people. How you doing tonight, everybody? Uh, well, I guess I could tell you most all of my studies on linguistics is from the free courses on MIT, YouTube, the Linguistic Society of America, Wikipedia, and I do check sources on Wikipedia. And so far on most of the linguistic stuff, it's very well written, very well sourced. So I've done my homework on all this linguistic stuff, and I'm happy that I get to share it with you because it made me learn a lot about linguistics in general. And here is my partner in
Ooh,
crime.
I spent like 10 minutes trying to find my headphones.
Mm,
Got it.
it's all right. It's okay. We just chilling, waiting for people to roll in.
Cool.
We got a few people here with us. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I invited Scott, but who knows what his ass is doing? With his dad and everything.
What
Let's see.
what's up with his dad unless it's too personal to
No. I think he's got some kind of health issue. Travis, what's wrong with his dad? Can you put it in chat if it's not too personal?
well,
I don't remember. I don't remember what he said.
hope for the best for him.
Oh, I definitely hope for the best for him. Everybody hope for the best for our old friend
Do some
Scott.
praying if that does anything. Might as well. Got nothing to
Yep.
lose.
If praying will help, fucking pray. Not against praying. Just who we pray to, right? Or what we pray to would be the problem there. Um, well, so I'm just gonna talk to you right now since it's just us. I was saying that I've sourced everything pretty well about all this linguistic stuff, and we've had about 10 episodes. We've done 2 episodes on semantics. We've done shitloads of subfield episodes. So tonight I'm going to cover the theory of language just relatively quickly, and then we're going to I'll just briefly go over some subfields, a few more subfields in linguistics, like have on recent episodes. If anybody wants to go back and listen to the episodes, because my lectures are always at the first of the episode, and then later after that it goes into tangents, but. You can go back and listen to any of the linguistics episodes. We're trying to find a way. Me and Travis and our team on Pangburn are attempting to find a way to ask the people on call in to help us have a function to where we can find podcasts more easily. Like you can go look at a single podcaster's page and see all of their podcasts like that. But hopefully there'll be some changes on that, and to where you can go back and jump to the other
Yeah,
linguistics
like a
episodes.
playlist.
Yeah, exactly. Well, basically just going to a page and like on YouTube, where it says most recently updated and popular, and you can
Yeah,
click on either
filter
one
it.
of those. Yeah, you can, and it just shows you basically all the episodes. Well, basically just going to a page and like on YouTube, where it says most recently updated and popular, and you can
Yeah,
click on either
filter
one
it.
of those. Yeah, you can, and it just shows you basically all the episodes that I'm in charge of. Not all the ones that I show up in, but all the ones that I'm in charge of. That I'm in charge of. Not all the ones that I show up in, but all the ones that I'm in charge of. So,
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah,
but yeah, we're
yeah.
working on it.
Segru
Uh,
has like early modernity, 19th century, contemporaries, pre-Socratics, whatever.
mm-hmm.
So you could switch it up into linguistics, and then I guess maybe SPA, because you had a huge thing with SPA and stuff and logic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we went deep on that. Remember, we went into Hellenistic philosophy and everything. Well, I don't even think I
Essentially,
pissed.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
epistemology,
epistemology. Yeah. So yeah, you missed all the logic
yeah,
episodes.
and it shows, right?
You'll have to go back and listen. That was back when it was just a pure lecture, me just talking for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, well,
Now I have somebody to bounce ideas off, which is
it's funny
invaluable.
because invaluable is a funny word because I always thought that was a derogatory word, but no, yeah, I know.
No.
But when in terms of logic, I've been trying to dip my toes in quantum mechanics and learning about that, and propositional logic is a bit different from the classical logic that I'm sure you talked about, and it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went over pretty much everything concerning logic without getting into too crazy stuff. I mean, we learned Aristotelian logic, then we went to propositional logic, which is just right immediately a step above that, and then you've got first order logic, predicate logic, whatever, and which gets kind of algebraic and replaces sentence structures with atomic variables, and then you've got paraconsistent logic to deal with like contradictions, and then you've got fuzzy logic, which is a value scale of like all the infinite numbers between 0 and 1 uh, logically. So there's Boolean logic, which deals with the zeros and ones of
Yeah,
computer
yep,
language.
exactly.
It gets ridiculous how many different formal fields of logic there are, and we went over most of them. But I didn't want to just go too far into it because it's so dry. And I mean, you don't need to. It's kind of like calculus. Like if you understand what calculus is used for, you don't necessarily have to know every single step in calculus, right? Like if you can just understand what a limit to infinity is used for, and maybe what you kind of understand how derivatives might help us find out things in reality. Like you don't need to know how to do the math. It's the same thing with understanding the concepts of philosophy and linguistics without actually having to go do it in the real world. That's why we care about this academia, is to learn this shit and become better acquainted with
Travis
reality.
told me to put on my new profile picture that he.
Yeah, put your new suit on. I think it's fucking killer.
Let's see. Save.
Nice.
Yeah, Boolean logic was what I was referring to. That's what they refer to, at least in the minimal theoretic beginnings of quantum mechanics.
I have a really like modal logic, and there's all kinds of other types as well. I have a really good video by Carneades.org, which is called The Map of Philosophy. Now it's a little bit different than I learned it, but he has a really good section on logic on there. And Kane Baker also has a really good
Yeah,
logic
can be.
series, which I think you would. Yeah, the guy
Yep.
I talked to, he has a really good logic series, and it's like 15 episodes long, and I'm plugging him because that series is great. It's just him talking to the mic, and he has a very good speaking voice. He explains things clearly. He goes over it multiple times. He's good. So yeah, there you go. That
Got
looks
it?
nice. Yeah, you're on
Nice.
fire, literally.
Yeah, I appreciate
Oh,
it, Travis. Thank you for doing that. However you go about doing that, I don't know if you do it or.
he's got an artist. He's got an artist that makes these
Nice.
for us. I want a red cape on mine. One day they'll give me a red cape. I'm just going to keep asking for it. Just a cape that's the same color as my belt and my mushroom.
Isn't your mushroom yellow? Oh, I guess it is. Oh yeah, it's red.
No, the top of
Yeah.
the top of the mushroom's like
Yeah.
orangish red, and I just need a cape to match. I think I would be. I think I love capes. I'm gay as hell, so come on, give
Well,
me a
you
little
know
bit of
that makes me
leeway
think
here.
of I need to tap into my creative side more so than I have been. I think that is something that would benefit me a lot if I did that.
We'll get you open to your
Yeah.
creative side.
I like drawing. I like writing. I've been writing a lot. Um,
Hmm.
but it
Yep.
does seem like a necessity to know about art and whatnot. So I love when you talk about it because I
Hmm.
know you know a lot about it and I know you like talking about it. So that's always
I
a fun
do.
topic for me to. It's al-
I wish I knew more about paintings and visual art and things like that, but music and some literature, works of art and
yeah.
poetry and stuff
Hmm.
like that, I know. But like I know who Van Gogh is and who like Jackson Pollock, and that's the kind of stuff I like is the abstract shit. But like
Picasso.
Picasso and Da Vinci and Michelangelo and all these, of course I know the popular ones, but I don't know all these niche underground, really like esoteric and hipster painters of their times. Of the Romantic period and all that. I just don't know. I don't know all
Right.
that shit. And if you asked me, I could probably artistically critique a piece of visual art, but it would be very layman's. I might be like, oh, okay, there's an overall metaphor here of this, and this represents this, and like, maybe I could do some kind of very low resolution take on it. But what were you gonna say?
Well, I mean, all I was going to say is no one has the authority, I guess, to tell you that your critique is wrong when it comes to art. I think that's the whole
Hmm.
point. Um,
Yeah. Well, the art show basically said, is it up to the interpreter of the art, or is it up to the artist to make the art? As in, does it matter more what the artist's interpretation was, or does it matter more of what the person interpreting
yeah,
it matters? Do
I
you
do,
understand the
I
question
do,
I'm
and
asking?
it seems as
Okay.
though perhaps both sides have to be taken into consideration. You know.
Well, of course I would go that way, but Kapow argued that it was fully more so on the artist's side and what the artist meant, because he's an artist, right? He cares about how his art is seen, and he wants it to be seen in a certain way. Now, there are some artists who are a little bit less strict than that, and they will make something because it feels good to them, and then other people just cling on to it because it suits them as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, it could be he could have an argument for that. If I were to take that
Hmm.
argument and run with it, I'd say like it's the artist's intent directly, and then secondarily, it's
Yeah.
the interpreter's, like the,
Yeah,
primary and then secondary. Uh,
and that's what the philosophy of art is talking about. It's talking about the critique of people who are interpreting, and then the intention of the people who are doing the art. So it's a deep concept, and we went over aesthetics and the difference between aesthetics and the philosophy of art in our What Is Art
mhm.
episode. Which, by the way, anybody who's listening, you can go back and watch that What Is Art show. It's very good. Travis and everybody gets involved. It's a very good conversation. We will do another What is Art episode, and we will talk about what art is to you. Probably here in the next few weeks, we'll do that. Just so we can have another revitalization of that kind of fun time. We'll make it like a sequel. But you want to get into some of this stuff, or what you want to do? You want to
Yeah,
keep
let's do
chatting?
it.
Don't matter to
Let's
me.
do it.
Let's get into some of this stuff for the people who care about this shit.
What's like a quick initiation to what you're going to talk about?
Well, we can. I mean, we can just directly talk about the theory of language. It's not complicated at all. So we've talked about. Let's go over a little bit what we have talked about. We've talked about general linguistics like syntax, semantics, alexis, morphology, pragmatics. We talked about what is that called? Phonology and phonemes. We've talked about graphemes, what those are. We've talked about etymology. We've talked about computational linguistics. Excuse me, that's subfields. All the things that make grammar what it is, which is the syntax, semantics, lexis, all that stuff that is part of grammar. We've gone over quite a bit. Now, I think I also last time went over theoretical linguistics, which is the study of language as like an abstract object instead of like how it would be put together otherwise. I guess I could explain because with underneath theoretical linguistics, there's generative linguistics, functional linguistics, quantitative linguistics, and formal semantics. Now, I explained what formal semantics was on the episode about semantics, so I won't go back into that. But basically, generative linguistics is like universal grammar. It seeks to ground grammar in like some kind of specialized language module in the brain kind of thing. So, Chomsky's work could have been considered to fall under generative grammar. He was definitely a theoretical linguist, right? But he also most linguists play in every form of linguistics. They're not so super specialized that, like a philosopher might be an epistemologist. If you're a linguist, you're studying all of linguistics. So, especially if you're teaching it, you know what I mean? You're teaching it, you're going to teach it all at once. It's not like you go through different. I mean, there are levels to the classes, of course. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. We got some. What is that in the background, Barry?
I was wondering if you're going to hear that. It's my dehumidifier. Let me turn it off real quick.
Oh shit! I don't know why. It's probably because your mic is just like really
sensitive.
What the hell am I trying to say? It's really, really sensitive. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so everybody gets what theoretical linguistics is. It's treating it like an abstract object, basically, in your mind, and just trying to understand and like logic it out. If that's the easiest way to say it, it's just like basically putting logical theories into linguistics and trying to understand it abstractly. So generative linguistics, and then formalism in linguistics, which formalism, there's different types of formalism in many different philosophies, but formalism in linguistics is like treating language as a mathematical, logical rule set where it has like formal grammar structures and syntax. So that's what pretty much any language does, but it doesn't necessarily go so strongly on the mathematical logic. Most like pragmatic linguistics don't. So formalism is attempting to computerize language. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. If you wanted a more detailed, you can go look it up, but it basically says, I think I'm going to look it up instead of just paraphrasing. In common usage, it is merely synonymous with a grammatical model or a syntactic model. So when you look at a language like English, and you're trying to understand you can look at it as a model, like a system. Our language is a grammatical model or a grammatical system, a formal system that has A, B, C, D, and all the rules of its syntax, like subjects before predicates and prepositional phrases and all this stuff. But that's what a syntactic model is. When you're looking at formalism in linguistics, you are turning all that stuff that I just talked about into like a mathematical logic game and trying to break it down in that format, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that made sense because that's how I had to understand it. Um, so functional linguistics is almost the same as pragmatics. It's language as used in colloquial senses. Quantitative linguistics is the study of quantitative language laws and corresponding general theories. It's a little bit more confusing. It's a subdiscipline of like general linguistics, but it's another mathematical way of looking. It's another theoretical linguistics field that's a mathematical way of looking at syntactic or grammatical models systems. Um, so let's talk a little bit. We haven't talked too much about descriptive linguistics. We talked about general linguistics and theoretical linguistics. Now let's talk a little bit about descriptive linguistics, which is describing how a particular language is used. Um, it's just objectively analyzing and describing how language is actually used in a speech community. So there's anthropological linguistics, which is the place of language in its like wider social and cultural context, and it's making and maintaining cultural practices and societal structures. Um, let's see if we'll read a little bit about this because it's important. So it's the subfield of linguistics and anthropology, which deals with the place of language in its wider social and cultural context and its role in making and maintaining cultural practices and societal structures. While many linguists believe that a true field of anthropological linguistics is non-existent, preferring the term linguistic anthropology to cover this subfield, many others regard the two as interchangeable. So linguistic anthropology, that's interesting that they would do it like that.
I can.
Yeah, so it just says linguistic anthropology is the interdisciplinary study of how languages influences social life. So they are the same thing. They're interchangeable. The field is earliest 20th century. Um, let's see. No, that's pretty much it. I mean, just how language associates itself with societal structures, and anthropology is always studying the individual in the society, and then sociology is studying the effects of society on the individual and how society moves as a whole. So sociology and anthropology are a little different, obviously. Um, I'll read a quick history of anthropological linguistics. Although researchers studied the two fields, the interchangeable fields, together at various points in the 19th century, the intersection of anthropology and linguistics significantly grew in prominence during the early 20th century. As American scholarship became increasingly interested in the diversity of Native American societies in the New World, anthropologists and linguists worked in conjunction to analyze Native American languages and to study how language related to the origins, distribution, and characteristics of these indigenous populations. So that's a direct example of why that would be important. What do you think about
Makes
that, Barry?
sense. So it has a big
Mm-hmm.
a big influence. Well, not influence, but I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Big impact on understanding history.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And
Seems like it's related to etymology a bit too, right? The study of how words,
change over
evolve
time.
over
Yeah,
time.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It also at first I don't know how much so now. At first, when you were talking about it, it seemed like it was connected to the pragmatic and functional linguistics as well, how they work in a
Yes, and
society.
I will go back over.
So
So let's talk about pragmatic linguistics one more time, just so that because this is probably one of the most important things you'll learn. Uh, so in linguistics, it's a subfield. Pragmatics is the study of how the context of the sentence, what's the context around it, contributes to meaning itself. So the field of study of pragmatics evaluates how human language is utilized in social interactions, as well as the relationship between the interpreter and the interpreted. So it's very pragmatic, and it's very practical, and that's the whole point of pragmatic linguistics. And there's an entire subfield that looks at it in that way. I think on the other episode we talked about the areas of interest within pragmatic linguistics. Um, but a couple of them would be like the study of the speaker's meaning, focusing not on the phonetic or grammatical form of an utterance, but on what the speaker's intentions and beliefs are. Right? That would be a pragmatically linguistic way of looking at that.
yep, that makes sense.
Um, Yeah, or the study of implicatures, the things that are communicated even though they are not explicitly
Mm.
expressed, right? Like implication, implied, right? Implicatures. Um, so yeah, when you're looking at pragmatics or pragmatic linguistics, you're taking into account all of these areas of interest. Which, if you'll go to the there's one page on LSA, the Linguistic Society of America, but just go to Wikipedia, guys, and look at the areas of interest on pragmatic linguistics, and it does say it needs additional citations, but this is more or less just a list of what it's interested in. There's not really any way to prove that this is all that this is all the field is interested in, and that's basically what it says. So uh, let me see if I can find a good link for that. Pragmatic linguistics. Did I skip it? Who cares? Y'all just go look up pragmatic linguistics. All right. So the other we know what anthropological linguistics is. It's the study of how it is in the cultural context. We know what pragmatic linguistics is and how it approaches things. It's more of like general linguistics. It's a very general, broad term to say pragmatic linguistics, because you could technically say all descriptive and applied linguistics are pragmatics, right? All but the theoretical linguistics are pragmatics. We could say that, but I don't know if that's academically correct, so I won't. Um, so the next one in descriptive linguistics is historical linguistics, and this one's relatively important. Do you know anything about it,
No, but I
Perry?
mean, it sounds like you were kind of getting to it with the anthropology portion of it and how anthropology affects our
Yes,
understanding of history.
yes.
So,
That's why I'm covering this next. It's also they also call it diachronic linguistics, right? Because that's time. It's the scientific study of how language changes over
etymology.
time. Not words. That's
Mm.
etymology, but
Mm, okay.
languages, right? That's historical linguistics. Uh, Here's some of the things that it's interested in: describing an account for observed changes in particular languages, to reconstruct the prehistory of languages and to determine their relatedness, grouping them into language families, um, like Latin and stuff like that, uh, to develop general theories about how and why language changes over time, right? To describe the history of speech communities, and to study the history of words, which is etymology. So historical linguistics is concerned with all that. Does that all make sense, or do I need to go into
Yeah,
anything
that
else,
makes
Barry?
sense.
Okay.
Can you? I mean, I'll just go ahead, but I don't know if you know off the top of your head the difference between philology and etymology.
Okay, so philology, which this is going to be an episode, it may actually we could probably cover. Well, it
It
might have
should
to
be
be an
an
episode
episode,
by
yeah.
itself. But philology is the intersectional, interdisciplinary study of language in oral and written historical
Mm,
sources. It's the intersection of textual criticism, history, and linguistics. Textual criticism, of course, being like what Bart Ehrman does,
the Bible.
right? He does it with the Bible, but textual criticism could be on uh, Gilgamesh,
Yep,
right?
Plato.
You could have textual criticism on Plato's works, right? There's an actual field of textual criticism, literary criticism in general. Uh, so when you tie history and linguistics and the textual criticism all together, with also strong ties to etymology, you get philology. So historical linguistics is going to kind of be directly tied into philology. I mean, I don't think they're the exact same thing, but
Yep.
those of which I just read you a moment ago, the things that historical linguistics are going to look to understand, philology is also going to look to understand those things as well.
Nice. Makes sense. So the intersection between literary textual criticism and language,
History and
history
linguistics.
and
Yes.
linguistics.
That's
Cool.
philology. Yep. Okay, so we know what historical linguistics is now. We don't have to fucking beat that one to death. All right. Comparative linguistics, which is Well, this one's obvious. Comparing languages to find similarities and historical connections. Okay, obviously. So we know what etymology is. Now, sociolinguistics. Let's pop into that one real quick. All right, I'm going to read this straight from the page. Sociolinguistics is the descriptive study of the effect of any or all aspects of society, including cultural norms, expectations, and context on the way language is used and society's effect on language. It can overlap with the sociology of language, which focuses on the effect of language on society. Right?
Yep.
Let's go back. Let's read that again. Let's see. Sociology of language is the study of relations between language and society. It is closely related to the fields of sociolinguistics, which focuses on the effect of society on language.
Makes sense.
So it's backwards. Sociology of language is the relation between language and society, and sociolinguistics focuses on the effect of society on language.
The chicken and the egg.
Okay, so they're switched. Yeah. So sociology of language and sociolinguistics directly tied with each other, just flipped. So that's pretty easy to understand. We won't go over that again because these are all descriptive linguistics. These are all just historical linguistics, anthropological linguistics. These are all just different ways, or excuse me, these are all just different ways of seeing descriptive linguistics, and it all kind of ties back to philology and historical linguistics, even the sociolinguistics and the sociology of linguistics, language. Yeah, the sociology of language. So I hope I'm not talking too fast or anything. Am I sounding pretty well explaining this stuff, Perry, or do I need to like slow down?
Seems like a good pace to me. Usually when I watch YouTube videos, I always put the playback speed to 1.25 or 1.5. So personally, I'm used to that kind of faster pace.
Well, I hope nobody. I'm reading slow for people who don't like listen to people talk a million miles an hour. So I don't want to sound pedantic or like condescending when I'm reading slow. I don't think anybody in the audience is stupid. I just want to make sure that everybody's getting the information the most efficient way that they can. So okay, we've talked about descriptive linguistics. You got anything to say about those, Perry?
Yeah.
I think you're very interested in historical linguistics, I think.
Yeah, it always reminds me and gives me anxiety because I feel the need to learn another language. And I think that...
Oh, dude,
yeah,
I would love to.
And,
what would you learn?
well, in terms of my pleasure drive, I want to learn either Greek or German.
Oh, Greek would be
because
perfect because then
the
you could read
dialogues.
all the original text.
But,
Yeah, you could read the original Bible that was translated in Greek.
the
if you
pragmatic
wanted
part
to.
of me, quiero aprender el español más. I want to learn Spanish more. I took Spanish for 4 years in high school, and I have a good base to it, so pragmatically it might make more sense. And, you know, there's a lot of Latin-based demographic around me down here in the South. So, But regardless of the path that I take, if I ever find the courage to do so, I think it'll be very helpful. But that's, I mean, I know that was a non sequitur to your question.
That doesn't matter.
That's just something that comes to mind whenever we talk about this stuff. But.
I would like to learn Greek. I'd like to know Latin. Wouldn't that be cool? Because then you could study a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'd like to know some form of like Mandarin, because I mean, so many people in the world speak Mandarin.
Yep, that's another pragmatic one.
I don't know, to be honest with you. Greek is probably the most interesting one, I would imagine. I don't know, maybe there's some like Egyptian, but they didn't have like syntax or anything.
That'd be a cool one to just go up to your friends and start speaking, I don't know, Egyptian. Or something.
Yeah, if we actually knew what the spoken language of Egypt was at that time, yeah. They didn't have any writing that you know, like hieroglyphics don't have syntax and stuff, you know. They don't have like grammatical, like the same thing with cuneiform from Sumerian.
So that would be,
there was no actual
semiotics
syntax.
More so because of the symbols.
Yeah. I mean, remember, semiotics is so intertwined with linguistics and computer science and like logic. Semiotics is almost everything because all of our senses recognize patterns. So if you really want to get down to it, semiotics is everything. Right? Semiotics is the basis for
Yeah,
any language.
yeah, that makes sense.
Putting signs to meanings,
As so far as there's
meanings to
as
signs.
so far as there's a mark to interpret that, a symbol, then yeah, it's going to be in the domain of semiotics.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
Yeah.
there's
I mean, think if you were blind,
yeah,
deaf, and dumb. What,
yeah, that's kind of unless there's like an invisible language or something. But
Yeah, there's some invisible, like no tactile, no visual, no speech, no
the
oral,
floating man
whatever.
language.
The floating man. Yep. Floating man language. That's what we're going to call it from now on. Everybody who doesn't know, we have like a joke about a floating man, and basically it's this thought experiment of saying there's this floating existence, this brain. It's kind of like the brain in the vat, but it's different. You aren't being fed any senses. It's just your brain a priori. And could you come up with language and logic just out of the patterns inside a human brain with no senses whatsoever? And the argument on that is very heated sometimes because it's like I'll let Perry tell you. It gets crazy.
Well, I guess a lot of our arguments do get heated. Not
No,
our,
not
but
heated. I didn't mean it
yeah,
that
no, I
way.
mean passionate
Yeah.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the argument is it's also called the flying man, and it's a Middle Eastern, I believe, origin of the thought experiment. The argument is you can be in this meditative state where you're deprived of all of your senses, but you could still be aware of your existence. Now, me personally, I don't agree with the conclusion of this thought experiment that was created by some guy's name that even if I searched it up, I wouldn't be able to pronounce.
The floating man goes further.
Does
The
it?
floating man
Okay.
goes further because because we're saying that it doesn't even know if it exists or not. It's
Gotcha.
just
So, yeah.
it's just an
Right.
a priori just an a priori brain mind. Right? There's a brain there, it's a mind, but it doesn't have any programming in it, right? It just has like the neurons fire, it recognizes patterns, that's it. Can you come up with logic and language a priori? Right, with no a posteriori
Right, and
influence.
I do get passionate when it comes to the a priori arguments that are made because
I don't think there's a distinction as much as there used to be.
and part of my writing that I do to kind of tap into my creative side is I have this dictionary in terms. I call it my dictionary in terms. It's where I take Google definitions that I've looked up in the past that I don't agree with. A priori being one of them. I'm sure, I've already brought this up to you many times where it says rather than observation. Rather than observation or experience. How can you have any knowledge without some sort of experience or prior observation to it?
Yeah, that's why the floating man is
Hence
so
the floating
important. It's
man.
saying, can you come up? Yeah, can the floating man come up with a priori language or logic? Now, I would say it'd probably have to come with logic first. But can a brain that just has patterns, and I guess it would have images and patterns, mentally, abstractly, but could it come to A equals A?
Right.
You know what I mean? Without ever having experienced one thing and another thing that are the same.
And obviously this is a thought experiment, so it's hard to actualize it, but how would you even test something like that? How?
That's
Yeah.
why the thought experiment's unfalsifiable. But it basically shows the flaw in a priori only thinking.
The farthest
You
you
know what I
can
mean?
go is, well, Kant's interpretation of a priori with the pure concepts, or the generative linguistics, such as something like Chomsky, where though that is an evolutionary type that it seems Chomsky is arguing for, and the evolution only comes from organisms that used a posteriori empirical senses to learn, and that's why they're there in the first place, to be passed on to perhaps a floating, the floating man. But
I don't know the answer. I don't think you can have a priori without a posteriori.
yep, I agree with your point that it's two sides of the same coin. It definitely is.
Well, with rationalism, empiricism, and a priori, rationalism and empiricism are schools, of thought in epistemology, whereas a priori and a posteriori are sources of knowledge, the way that you come
Right,
about
knowledge.
understanding
Yep.
knowledge. Yeah. So the distinction there is not nearly as different as it used to be in philosophy. It's to me at least it seems much more merged and synergistic, synthetic today. Let's jump back in real quick to let's talk. I can go on some more subfields of linguistics, but well, let's talk about applied linguistics real quick, and I'll go over that, and then what we'll do is we'll talk about the theory of language, and then I'll try to wrap it up after that, and we'll see if we've got anybody else in here who wants to conversate. We got our buddy Jack in here. I'm sorry, Jack, I've been ignoring you. What you been up to, brother? Slinging them sweet rhymes, spitting that
You're
sweet
muted
fire.
on your mic. If
Yeah, no, I had to switch mics. Yeah, no, I've just been listening to y'all go on for a minute or two. Because it looks
That's cool.
like K Dot in the chat's got a lot of stuff to say. I hope he calls in and talks about it.
Yeah, we'll get to that point, K Dot. We'll be done with our educational fucking lecture.
I don't
I call it
know,
educational, but I mean I learn
there's
just
so
from
much to say.
studying
There's
this.
so little to call in about. It just makes me so interested. But
Yeah, no, it's okay. Everybody keep up with the chat. Keep up with K Dot saying. I will let callers call in here, probably in the next 15, 20 minutes. Okay, and then we'll let it go to just open conversation, and hopefully we can get some good tangents. And I don't mind if anybody wants to bring up. Let's try not to go just way off topic. I'm not really a political person, so let's try to stay away from that. But anything else, as long as it's not just talking about the weather or something, you're more than welcome to call in. But we'll start taking calls here in about 15 or 20 minutes. Me and Perry are going to cover some more about linguistics and stuff. Uh, but let's where was I, Perry?
applied linguistics.
Yes. Okay. So, my friends, we learned about descriptive linguistics. Now I'm going to talk about applied linguistics. Okay, this is just one more main subfield of linguistics. It's quite obvious. It's finding the real life solutions related to language. So it's very heavily steeped in pragmatics, right? There's computational linguistics, which is the use of computation applied to language databasing and like analysis and translation. There's forensic linguistics, which is pretty obvious. It's language science applied to the processes of law and justice, like the justice system. There's internet linguistics, which is the study of language usage on the internet, which I bet is insane. I got to read about this just for a second. Hang on. Okay, so internet linguistics is a domain of linguistics advocated by the English linguist David Crystal. It studies new language styles and forms that have arisen under the influence of the internet and other new media such as short message service text messaging. Since the beginning of human-computer interaction, leading to computer-mediated communication and internet-mediated communication, experts such as Gretchen McCullough have acknowledged that linguistics has a contributing role in the internet in terms of web interface and usability. That's interesting. Huh. Studying the emerging language on the internet can help improve conceptual organization, translation, and web usability. Okay. All right, cool. So yeah, that's an applied linguistics field. And we've got language assessment, which is assessing first or second language faculty and individuals, telling what language facilities they have to offer and what they can do. Language documentation, which is a comprehensive description of the grammar and use practices of languages of a particular group, not just a society, but a group. Language revitalization are attempts to halt or reverse the decline of a language, or even try to bring back an extinct one. So I don't know of any. I'm sure. Okay, let me see. Language also referred to as language revival is an attempt to halt or reverse the decline of language. Okay, those those involved can include linguists, cultural or community groups, or governments. Some argue for a distinction between language revival and language revitalization. There has only been one successful instance of a complete language revival, which is the Hebrew language, creating a new generation of native speakers without any pre-existing native speakers as a model. That's interesting. So the Hebrew language was revitalized, complete language revival. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to look more into that in the future, guys. Look into that if you're interested. Then, of course, we have language education, duh, and then we have linguistic anthropology, like how we talked earlier.
That's what I thought of.
Is the study of how, the study of how languages influences our social lives, how we speak, affects the intersubjective interactions that we have every day, and the interpersonal interactions. Same thing, pretty much, but. Now there's one little small field left, and I'll go ahead and cover it because it's not that long. Psycholinguistics. Okay, so psycholinguistics is the study of the psychological and neurobiological factors that enable humans to acquire, use, and comprehend language.
Geez.
So this is the psychology area of linguistics, right? You've got cognitive linguistics, which seeks to ground grammar in general cognition in the computation of the mind. Language acquisition, which is the study of how children and adults acquire language, knowledge, and ability. Language development, which is the study of early language formation. And then, of course, second language acquisition. Psycholinguistics also includes many other different ideas of, psycholinguistics is an interdisciplinary field that consists of researchers from a variety of different backgrounds, including psychology and cognitive science. Psycholinguistics study how people acquire and use language according to these main areas: language acquisition, language comprehension, language production, and second language acquisition, just like I read a moment ago. So a researcher in this area is interested in language comprehension, may study the word recognition during reading to examine the processes involved in the extraction of orthographic and semantic information from the patterns printed in a text. So that's basically the idea of psycholinguistics, is approaching it from the idea of mind and cognitive science. It's also going to be heavily influenced by pragmatics. Psycholinguistics is. So, guys, that's pretty much all the subfields of linguistics that we. I mean, there's obviously other ones, but there's no point in going that deeply into it. So let's. Anything to say there, Perry?
I mean, that's like the most important aspect of linguistics, obviously, is the mechanism that we use to obtain it. And I immediately thought of how we brought up that a priori and a posteriori. Our mind or brain, if whatever, are using that, that mechanism, that two sides of the same coin that we talk about, in order to, hence the psycho, and then it's the linguistics, to form the language in linguistics. So that's obviously heavily related. But yeah, I mean,
psycholinguistics may as well be a field of cognitive science. I think it pretty much is.
I look forward to your future shows on cognitive science and psychology.
Oh, dude, we're going to get deep. Cognitive science, neurobiology and neurochemistry, neuroscience, neuropsychology. We may even get a little bit into psychiatry and pharmacology. We'll definitely get into like the psychotherapy and different ideas for psychotherapy. It's going to get deep. So my psychology episodes are going to be the deepest ones that I have because it's my main passion. I care very much about interactions between people and interactions within ourselves. So psycholinguistics, very important to remember, guys. Let's very quickly go over the theory of language because I promised I would cover it on this episode when I made the title. So let's just go over that real quick. I guess I could mention universal grammar, or did I already go over like universal grammar, the modules that Noam Chomsky put forward?
I mean, you definitely. Well, actually, I don't know.
I think we
I don't
talked
know if
about
you
it.
have in the past. You probably have, because we've talked about it a lot. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's about developmental linguistics. It's about children having this universal grammar plugin or firmware that is instantiated through evolution that allows language to just be easily understood and easily learned. It's much deeper than that, obviously, but that's the general idea about
No, you
universal
just
grammar.
sparked like a bunch of memories of us definitely talking about that, like human, like child development. When you're 5 and stuff, isn't that like, I don't know, maybe that's just something else that I'm incorporating, but
Your IQ tends to crystallize between 7 and 12. Is that where?
yeah, that could be.
Is that what we were
That
talking
could
about?
definitely
Yeah.
be it.
So, there's a big. We can go over the argument for a universal grammar module at some time, but the argument's an essay long, so I don't want to do it right now. I found a good one on Linguistics Society of America, so I may go over that sometime on another episode. But linguistics is not super important to everyone, even though it probably should be. So I can't expect a lot of people to come to these shows, these linguistic shows, because it's very esoteric, right? We don't analyze how we speak and how the grammar's made up. We care about what we're saying and the concepts that we're talking about. We don't care so much about the tools, when I think we should, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So let's go over the theory of language real quick. We'll just read on it real fast, and then maybe if we have to cover it in depth, I'll do it next time. So the theory of language is a topic from the philosophy of language and theoretical linguistics. Okay, we talked about theoretical linguistics earlier. It has the goal of answering the questions: what is language? Why do languages have the properties they have? And what is the origin of language? So this is a more philosophical question than the actual pragmatic usage of language, right? We're not studying the history or anything. We're asking, what
It's my
is
favorite.
language, basically? Yeah, and that's what the philosophy of language is. So theory of language would be like a theory of truth, where the philosophy of epistemology is more broad, okay? So even though much of the research in linguistics is descriptive or prescriptive, there exists an underlying assumption that terminological and methodological choices reflect the researcher's opinion of language. Linguists are divided into different schools of thinking, with the nature-nurture debate as the main divide. Some linguistics conferences and journals are focused on a specific theory of language, while others disseminate a variety of views. Like in other human and social sciences, theories in linguistics can be divided into humanistic and sociobiological approaches. Same terms, for example, theory of language, like the nature-nurture debate. So there's many different types of theories of language. There's structuralism, functionalism, formalism, post-structuralism. So we may have to do an episode on the philosophy of language and the theory of language. But what I am glad is that we tied up all of the subfields of linguistics. So we don't have to go through that anymore. The continuing episodes are going to be philosophy of language, theory of language, and then we're going to go to philology. We'll probably cover that in maybe hopefully get all that in one episode, hopefully. And then we'll probably cover maybe some biological linguistics. But we're getting close to being done with linguistics, so I really appreciate everybody sticking it through to the end with this series, because it's something I just wanted to do and have on the books, that it was actually on here and that I did it, because it's fun to me to put all this together, and I hope it's entertaining for you guys. Anything to say, Perry, before we start going into
No,
tangent
it definitely
time?
is entertaining. Part of my pleasure drive is learning, so that you know, you definitely.
Was anything confusing tonight? Because I'm confused a little bit on some of the nature of certain
So
generative linguistics,
yeah,
but
yeah,
go ahead.
that, which we could definitely go into at a different date. You said socio-biological when you were talking about nature versus nurture, and you just said nature there. I don't know if that was you hinting at that aspect, like nature versus nurture.
That's a big thing in the theory of
Right.
language. Is it more, nature? That's a big thing in anything
Yep.
psychology. Anything psychology is nature nurture, right? Is we want to know if nature did it or nurture did it.
Nature.
But it's a combination of the two.
Nature is a word that I have in my little dictionary thing that I don't agree. Well, actually, it's not nature, or maybe it is. It's artificial. I think that I was artificial on Google says that anything that is not natural because it's man-made or something along the lines of that. So they're, I guess, presupposing that humankind is not natural. Let me, if I may,
Interesting.
I'll
take your time.
Artificial.
Guys, we will be talking in tangents here in just a minute, but we're going to finish this session out, okay, guys? I appreciate you being patient with me, all the callers. If I haven't looked at my screen in a while, so I'm sorry if I've missed people.
The word natural, according to Google, unless it's changed in the past 2 days, existing in or caused by nature, not made or caused by humankind. So they're presupposing that humankind is not natural. Now, I get the intent of the definition that they're trying to give, but it's flawed, and I have an issue with that because we have people like, Travis who get upset when people ask, well, what do you mean by that? And there's
when we build a building, are we creating something?
When we build a building, no, we're transforming something. Yeah, I don't think.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't. I don't. That's another word.
Now we are creating we are technically, quote unquote, creating the idea of that building, right?
Because
they had to visualize it theoretically before it became a building. So the idea of the building. Now I'm not talking about the realm of forms. I'm not talking about Platonic ideals. I'm just saying, in a metaphor, the idea of the building had to be there before the building existed. So did we create that concept of
I presuppose that thoughts are probably material also, in which case if they are, then again we're not really creating anything, we're just transforming matter into our thoughts now.
So what is artificial then? What's the difference between artificial and
natural? Is anything that is man-made, in my definition.
Well, I know that, but what would it be to you?
No, that's my definition. Anything that is made by man. Well, because artificial in the way that Google gives it, I don't agree with. I don't believe that there is anything artificial. Let me see. Artificial.
So you think everything is natural, then what is not natural?
It's non-existent. There's nothing that is. That's why whenever someone says, like, you'll hear this from Christians a lot, where they'll say it's the supernatural or whatever. It's almost like they're admitting that it's not real because nothing is supernatural. If it happened, the miracles of Jesus, if that happened, then that's natural. That was a natural occurrence.
I would say everything that we know of is natural. You know what I mean? So I agree with you. I am metaphysically a naturalist.
I would take my stance. Whatever is the case, ism. Whatever is the case, the ding on sick. If
whatever reality is what we're seeking, right? Whatever is the case is the case.
And I'll let you talk actually before I say that. Unless did you want to say something to that? Okay.
No, I was just saying whatever is the case is the case.
Even hallucinations, I think, are natural. I think that because
they are.
we can't experience the ding on sick. Obviously, we have some weird thing going on, and that is natural as well. The empiricism. But artificial says made or produced by human beings rather than occurring naturally. So human beings creating something, or produced rather, is a better word.
Well, we can't create or destroy. We can only
produce is the word that they used. That's natural.
But I think the idea of something, it's like the idea of a gun, right? It had to be formulated before the gun was made.
The idea. Right? So, but just as we quote create a building when we're actually just transforming it, we're also.
So you think we can? Do you think we can create an idea, but we don't create any actual natural physical thing?
This is me being pedantic with my definitions. I think just as we create, quote, that the wrong part of the building, we're not creating the idea. It's transforming if thought and concepts are material, like I'm presupposing. If they are material, then it's the same mechanism where we're just changing matter in a certain way, and then this idea comes about. I think we can only create if we have free will.
I don't see right now, and I'm trying not to be fallacious here, I don't see any evidence to say that there is anything that is not natural.
Agreed.
So, but that, I'm open to be convinced otherwise.
Yeah.
I made a double negative there.
Right. Yeah. No. So you're also saying that
I'm saying that with all the best evidence we have, everything is
everything
natural.
that
I don't know of
is
anything that is not
everything
natural.
that is natural. Yes, exactly. I agree.
Yeah, that's what you said earlier, and I was agreeing
Yep.
with you, but I wanted to hear your whole point before I agreed with the whole point, and I agree with everything
And
you said.
you know, I'm glad you said that,
Um,
because create now is another word that I want to critique. And
yeah, it's hard. I had to try to get that out of my vocabulary.
I
You know what I
mean,
mean?
I
To
understand
not
your
say the
intent.
word
Yeah, and I was
create.
being pedantic for
Yeah,
argument
well,
purposes.
I use the word instantiate because that's a computer science term, and it means to cause an instance of.
That makes sense. Instantiate, instant kind
Yes.
of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's why I like to use that term, because it makes much more sense based on like an evolutionary algorithm or some kind of other algorithm in reality. You guys know what I'm talking about. Y'all are all smart
Reorganize.
motherfuckers.
That's a good one. Carnal.
Uh,
Yeah. Reorganize.
yeah. Right now, guys, I really appreciate y'all listening. I'm gonna end the me and Perry just talking by ourselves time, but me and Perry are still gonna go on. But I'm opening the floor to Scott, Jack, Honenheim, Carnal, North. Y'all get up here. Let's fucking talk. Get some tangents going and hang out. Thanks for you guys for listening to the lecture. I really appreciate it.
That was good.
What's up, Carnal?
Howdy.
Howdy.
Man, I tell you what, I've only been here a few minutes, but I already feel smarter just listening to y'all talk.
That's the goal.
I appreciate that. The goal is for
I
us all
really
to
do.
learn.
I mean, I learn vocabulary every time I come to your room. And I thought I was a pretty smart fucking dude already. But I'm telling you, y'all really do use a lot of words I'm not familiar with, because that's just not my circle. I don't deal in psychology and all that stuff. So I really do gain some insights and some language from you guys. So I appreciate that. I just wanted you to know that
That's excellent, man.
it's effective.
I think that's why I do this, because I want people to teach me and I want to teach other people. And when I do these deep dives, I learn so much. And I'll be honest with you, I forget a lot of it. So I'm happy that it's all recorded.
Amen to that. Yes.
What were you going to say, Perry? I'm sorry.
I forget all the time, man. Like whenever I'm trying to think of a concept that we've talked, and that's why it's similar to, I forget which of the theories of language you were talking about, or I forget what you were talking about.
Oh, there's a bunch.
But you were
Sociobiological.
just saying, like,
What do y'all think the mechanism is that causes us to forget, to lose that path to that?
I always say that we have finite knowledge, and like you always want to spend your time obtaining what you think is valuable knowledge, because otherwise you're just filling it with junk and it's finite, and and I think
Yeah, there's a finite amount to the brain from which it can
Okay, hold on.
can
Oh,
handle. Like a hard drive.
I have a thought about that.
Sure.
I kind of feel like, yes, there is a finite amount of space, gray matter in the brain, but I kind of feel like, and I have nothing to back this up, so this is completely just a random thought that I've had before. That anyway, I feel like memories might operate in a fractal mechanism.
I don't know what that means. Fractal.
Fractal's like a kaleidoscope. A fractal would be like a macroscopic jump up one level,
Okay.
or a microscopic jump down one level.
Can you?
Does that make sense, Barry?
It's also eternal. Like fractals, you can zoom in on one point forever, and it always turns into the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a kaleidoscope.
Okay. Well, you're not the first person to have that thought, Carnal, because the Socratics also, but the pre-Socratics thought that you were born omniscient with eternal knowledge and all knowingness, and you forgot as you got older for whatever reasons. I don't know if it was because of the gods or what.
Yep,
but,
they did believe that.
So
They did believe that.
Well, I had
Go ahead,
another
bud.
thought a while back that the answers are out there. We just haven't heard them yet.
I've thought of that too. That's a good. Yep. Until we're revealed it, essentially, quote, if I may, revealed it through our empirical senses or whatever, or soul or whatever, then it's there, but
Observation, somebody else telling us, hearing it, whatever means it is, whatever the mechanism is, the answers are every question has already been asked. All of the answers are out there. It's just a matter of interacting with that answer and discovering it for yourself and bringing it into your own reality.
I mean, for things out there that are unknown, I think there are answers to them. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. But they're only unknown to the individual. Like I said, like you only know what's known to your reality.
Yeah, exactly.
I already know what I'm going to say.
But don't you think that's different than a thought, right? So like if we find ourselves in a system, that there's going to be things about this system that we don't know yet. But that doesn't mean thoughts themselves, we have them, and that they're just like they're been obscured from our vision until we get a certain amount of information, right? It's still the same thing. Like we like our thoughts are only available to us by taking in information because we can only ever know what we know. But that system, just because that system is there, and there are certain systematic truths to the system, like the speed of light, the rate of gravity on Earth, these kind of things. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that's knowledge or thoughts until we put our finger on it, right? But it is the system that we find ourselves living in.
Well, somebody discovered that at some point by whatever means, the mechanism they discovered it. So we either discover it through our own experiments, or we discover it by learning their path to that discovery.
Yeah, but you wouldn't say that thought existed before somebody had that thought, right? That's why I'm trying to separate
there's no way
a
to
system between a thought, because a thought is our way of interacting with systems, but that system is there regardless of whether we think about it or not.
But there's no way to know that.
How I think of it is, and this is what I thought of when you said this, Cardinal, is that thoughts somehow exist outside of our mind, independent of our mind.
Consciousness.
And until the spotlight lights up the thought that is existing out there, then we have the thought. What I thought Scott made, it's kind of what he said, but what I thought he was going to say is in science, one of the virtues is knowing that there are questions that we haven't even discovered to ask in order to find the answers that are out there. Either way, those could exist outside of our mind, independent of our mind, until we take the proper path in order to get to unlock to level 2 and level 3 and so on.
Necessity.
Necessity.
Is the mother of invention.
Yeah, it is. You're right. That probably will be how we advance. It's through necessity. We're lazy motherfuckers, aren't we?
Well, hold on. Let's think about it for a second. What endeavors that you know of or are aware of that humanity has attempted that we have just catastrophically failed at?
Catastrophically failed at?
Yeah, that we did not eventually succeed in or make headway.
Socialism, communism.
Well, we got past that. We got past Nazism.
No, we know that doesn't work.
Well, it's gotten better.
No, I'm just saying, it's like a world. It's gotten better.
According to who?
No. Socialism was the method that human beings lived under for hundreds of thousands of years.
During the hunting and gathering days. That's exactly.
Yeah. I mean, of course it works. Let's be honest.
How do you know that?
Because if you're living in a community of 100 people, and this is the way humans lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Yes.
Right. But how do you know that they lived like that hundreds of thousands of years is what he's asking.
They could have been fighting each other from tent to fucking tent over the deer that somebody just killed. We have no idea.
But then those people wouldn't have survived, and we wouldn't be here now, right?
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Real quick, Scott. Based on evolutionary psychology, we know that empathy had to be in the family first because fathers and mothers had to protect their children to survive, and then we know that empathy spread to other tribe members because it was more people, more survival. So these things are evolutionary features that happened naturally, and they're a part of evolutionary psychology. So this is something that we know happened at least from the plains of Africa onwards, and that's where we got to societies. And then when societies and large tribes happened, that's when all the dissonance I mean, yes, there was going to be like fights between small tribes and stuff, but like major wars and things like that didn't happen until people started forming societies, you know?
When I would say we can even look at like chimpanzee societies for like a pretty good correlation
that's
here,
a
right?
good
So
one.
like within like a specific chimpanzee group, there is not a ton of infighting except when it's for who's like the dominant mating chimpanzee, right? But a lot of that doesn't really turn to fighting. But chimpanzees will actually go out and fucking murder and kill other chimpanzee
Right.
groups.
That's
Yeah,
what
for sure.
that's Cardinals. That's Cardinals' argument, and I think that perhaps both of them exist simultaneously, and it's teeter tottering as time goes on, where it's either more we help each other, and then it's Darwin, and then we help each other, and then it's you know it's Machiavelli.
No. The interesting thing, Perry, it's all Darwin.
So
Like even when we're fucking people up, it's all Darwin.
well, yeah, I see.
Technology is the only thing that gets us out of the natural selection
I'm
process.
more referring to like will to power and taking advantage of people, and then socialism, and then capitalism taking advantage of people, and just whoever's the strongest.
Oh my
dominate.
God, where's Nivik?
So that
Dude, have
Why
you
did
guys
you
heard
do
about
that?
feudalism yet?
Oh my God. Sorry, Perry. I know you're
No,
making a
no,
serious point.
I
That's
mean,
my bad.
I got it. I got it across. It's teetering between not Darwinism. I agree, and I just got the pedantic Perry used against me because I would agree definitionally everything is Darwin if the theory of evolution is true. Then yes, everything is Darwin. I was referring more to like the grueling side of it. The dominant.
Yeah.
I think you get my point.
Just think about how quickly and easily the dynamic or the status quo within a familial community could change. I mean, they didn't have civilization like we see it or we understand it now. If somebody did something that caused harm to somebody within a family unit, that motherfucker probably got killed. There was no judge or jury or any of that shit. It was to the death. You are not worth being in this community anymore. Bye. I mean,
Yeah,
very final.
yeah. A lot of times, like if you look back in the past, it was like excommunication, which is pretty much death.
Exile, yes, exile.
It's pretty much death. But like I
Well,
agree with you.
Carnal's probably correct. Back on the plains of Africa, if there was like a tribe and somebody from another tribe wandered out there and they had a serious problem with that tribe, they'd probably just kill them. I mean,
They still do that today.
Dude, but here's something interesting. I think it's the Shoshone like group of Native American cultures that was in like New York and that kind of area. They actually didn't have a death penalty. So if somebody killed somebody, they didn't actually kill that person back.
How would they handle it? Do you know like what the alternative was, or I mean, did they just literally like turn a blind eye and act like nothing happened, or?
A lot of it came down to like recompense, like paying the family a certain amount of money or something like that. Sort of like what we have now with like civil trials and that kind of
I
stuff.
guess.
Are you talking like 600 years ago? Like what time frame
when
are
were
you talking?
these?
Yeah, like 600 years ago. Yep.
I did not know that.
But 600 years ago is a blink of a fucking eye,
yeah.
right?
Not even that. That's
Yeah, we are the infinitesimally small sliver of time that life has lived on this planet. About 1.5 billion years since abiogenesis. So
based on our current purview.
the reason why we don't, the empathy is spread to societies and larger societies is because of evolutionary psychology and how it's played out. But I mean, you still, of course, have all these people with competing ideas, and that's why the empathy can't spread. But with the internet, the empathy is spreading all over the world. And I'm not trying to be like, well, I am trying to be lovey-dovey and like kissy-huggy and feely and everything, but I mean, I'm also trying to be like realistic, because evolutionary psychology shows us that the people who protect their tribe, protect the people they love, and all that kind of stuff, they survive. The ones who are careful, The ones who are empathetic, the ones who are communal, they survive over the ones that are antisocial and detrimental to the society and liars and thieves
Yep.
Why can't we be more like that now?
and murderers and all these kinds.
But we are like that now, Cardinal. Like I
Not
would
effectively.
actually argue that more people on the face of the earth are like that than they are like the shitbags that you see online posting fucking hate and all this kind of crazy shit. Most of the people that you meet, like it's like your next door neighbor or somebody that you work with. I mean, this is a whole wide range of group of people that you're interacting with. Everybody's really cool with each other.
All
for
I
the
would
most
ask
part.
you to do there, Scott, is to say, yeah, the people that you meet, usually you don't see that kind of thing when you're in person, but when you're on the internet, which was the thing you were contrasting, even those people that you meet and are good during the meet can be evil and say evil things, on the internet and whatnot. And so those could be the same group of people in the population that you're trying to parse. It could be the same person that's good and bad.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think there are people that do that. But I think what really matters is actual interactions that people have with other human beings, like when they're dealing with
Pragmatic
people.
part of
Like,
it. So what?
yeah, like when you're driving, like if everybody acted the way they did on the internet, and somebody cut you
Right.
off in traffic, like you'd expect there to just be like
Sure.
bullets flying
So
fucking everywhere.
does
right?
that mean that? What if their intent the whole time is evil, though, and bad, yet they put on the facade and they act pragmatically in the positive way? What are your thoughts
Ooh,
about that?
so I don't think human beings are that I don't know, I guess for lack of a better term, basic. I think human beings find themselves in like an online community, and you can say and do whatever you want, and it's not going to have any actual repercussions on you,
Right.
and that's the biggest thing, because in any society, especially if we're going back far enough, anything you did would have a repercussion on somebody else within your tribe, right? So like then there was a very strong drive to not do certain things because it's good. Not only will it fuck up somebody else, but it's gonna like fuck you up too. So you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like if you would rather. I mean, how do I put this? And I get that you're just saying how your interpretation of how reality is with Darwinism makes sense. I agree.
Yeah.
I guess what would you rather have, if I could make a slippery slope fallacy and make a radical point? Would you rather have that pragmatic?
Hello, testing. 1,
Yeah.
2. Hello.
Yeah, you're back, Tom.
Would you rather have that pragmatic community but they have bad intents the whole time, the evil internet intents, or would you rather have a bad, shitty working? I mean, it still works and functions to the point where you don't die, but everyone is good intent, like everyone's ascetic essentially, and they don't like they have super Christian values and sell all you have and follow me, and so which one? But let's say I mean the Christian one, don't take that. You can have a naturalistic ascetic, very minimal. We don't need to eat a lot type thing. We don't have as many pleasures perhaps, but it's all good intent at the end of the day. Which one would you rather have?
I heard a quote once.
Hey
It said,
guys, can you hear me?
yeah, we got you.
Yo.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear us? Thomas, can you hear
Can
us?
you hear me? Okay, I
he
can't
can
hear
hear us.
anybody else.
We can hear you.
My internet keeps cutting out, guys. We're gonna have to end this. We're gonna have to go to Discord. I can't hear anybody, so I really appreciate you guys coming to my show. I love you all. Please come to the Discord and talk to us. Please go subscribe to Pangburn on YouTube, and love you all. Let's go to Discord.
Dope. Peace.